All right, Steve, well, how did Ted Cruz defy the polls and win first place in Iowa? Dr. Ben Carson says he cheated. Overnight, his campaign releasing this statement. Listen, there has never been a more tainted victory in the Iowa caucuses, from the mailing denounced by the Iowa Secretary of the State to his abject lies about Dr. Ben Carson. Senator Cruz demonstrated he is a worst kind of Washington insider. No candidate who claimed to be an outsider would stoop to these tactics.
Here to address this for the first time, Dr. Ben Carson. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
Okay, what are we talking about? What dirty tricks?
Well, you know, at many of the precincts, information was disseminated that I was suspending my campaign, that I had dropped out, and anybody who was planning to vote for me was wasting their vote, and therefore they should reconsider.
Now, when you say that information was disseminated, are you saying that the various speakers who spoke on candidates' behalf, the Ted Cruz surrogate said, hey, you know what, Dr. Carson has dropped out, come vote for Cruz? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, some of those speakers said that, but we also have tweets and written correspondence to the same.
Wow. Okay. And Dr. Carson, we're going to bring in our Brian Kilmeade. He's live on the ground there in Des Moines, too. But Dr. Carson, I want to ask you, your wife even had firsthand experience with this. What did she tell you?
Well, yeah, she spoke at one of the caucus sites, and before she got there, one of the Cruz people had, you know, again, disseminated that information to the crowd, and the organizers said, told her, I'm so glad you're here, so you can set the record straight, and she did, and we actually won in that precinct.
Look at that. Brian.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's interesting, because Steve King, who I actually seen, is a big supporter of Ted Cruz and a conservative with a lot of pull in Iowa, tweeted this out at 7:20 p.m. Carson looks like he is out. Iowans need to know before they vote. Most will go to Cruz, I hope. And then has a Twitter address on there. Is that specifically the tweet you're referring to?
That's one of the tweets, yes. And, you know, here's the thing. I mean, if Ted Cruz doesn't know about this, then he clearly needs to very quickly get rid of some people in his organization. And if he does know about it, isn't this the exact kind of thing that the American people are tired of? Why would we want to continue with that kind of, you know, shenanigans?
Dr. Carson, you came in at 9% last night. Do you think that number would have been higher if these allegations you're making hadn't been in place?
I think they would have been. You know, I got calls from several people who told me their internal intelligence said that I was going to do extraordinarily well.
Well, what would you like Ted Cruz to do today?
Well, if he doesn't, like I said, if he didn't know about this, he needs to get rid of the people who were responsible for that. I mean, that would be a high priority for me. And if he did know about it, he needs to come out, admit what he did, and try to offer a solution.
Right. And, you know, it's interesting because the theory goes that a lot of the evangelical support that had you in first place left and went to Ted Cruz, and being that it was so close between Cruz and Trump, you wonder if that is indeed the difference. But let's end on a high note. Ben Carson, I had a chance to go and visit one of the caucuses, at which time anyone who had a surrogate had a chance to stand up and say, vote for my guy or woman. You had a great captain. She says, I don't need to stand in a chair. Look at me. She stood in the middle of the room, and here's what she said for you.
America comes first in this country, and that's why I stand with Dr. Carson. He knows what it's like. He knows what it took to build this country. He's an entrepreneur. He was the one that they said could not make it.
If there were persuadables in that room that were going to go switch people, they would have switched to you after hearing your captain at work.
No question, and I spoke at a couple of the caucuses, and the people were just over the top enthusiastic.
All right.
So, you know, what this does is it makes me more determined than ever to try to save our country.
But Dr. Carson, you say you're not going home for good. You're just going home to get a fresh set of clothes. What's next for you in New Hampshire?
Well, obviously I'm going to be there, going to be making some appearances, talking. Of course, we have the debate coming up next week. And, you know, I am by no means even thinking about throwing in the towel. This is just the beginning of the fight.
All right. Dr. Ben Carson, who says he's a victim of Ted Cruz' dirty tricks. Dr. Carson, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
All right.